Hey, bonjour.
Yes.
Ça va bien?
Come on in.
How are you doing?
Good, you?
I'm very good. Nice to meet you, Assisi.
Okay.
I love it. This is awesome. Woo! Took a while to get here. Nice, great, awesome.
So, is it a long ride from Cyclone?
A little bit.
Shooting it raw?
Yes. Shooting it raw. So the photo that you send is, so you usually describe them so people have some kind of reference. Okay, so what we have is that, it looks like a photo of a photograph.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So it's a photograph of a photograph, and it looks probably like, it looks like a Time magazine style photo on a table that's in black and white, and the shot is some stairs going down into what probably looks like a ship maybe, and there are a lot of people packed on the two levels. So I think it looks like two levels of basically stairs going down into a ship, and it's a black and white photo, and there must be in the photograph maybe 40 or 50 people just crammed on top of each other, women, children, fathers, just all in together. And so why is this photo the first one, and what's this mean? What is this for you?
So this is a picture that I took at Hong Kong Museum of Correctional Services.
Oh, wow.
I was very surprised to learn that something like that existed here in Hong Kong. It's in Stanley.
Okay.
And I went there when I first arrived in Hong Kong, so in 2017.
Okay.
Someone I knew, when you just arrive in Hong Kong, you make friends with plenty of people, you start exploring around. So this person said, well, why don't we go explore Stanley and let's meet up at this museum.
That's a really
original
place to visit on your first, okay.
Right?
Okay.
And so, and I was just up for anything, right? Just open, and came to Stanley for the first time. You see all of these big villas, and it's like, oh, okay, I'm going into a pretty high-end area of Hong Kong. Came to the Correctional Services Museum. So first floor, there's all of this history about prisons in Hong Kong, pirates, etc. And then at some point, the person with me said, hey, Sao-Mai, isn't this Vietnamese writing? So I came up, and it's a booklet all written in Vietnamese.
Okay.
And then next to it was a booklet in English and one in Cantonese. I was like, why Vietnamese?
Right.
Are Vietnamese people in Hong Kong so like a large population of criminals in Hong Kong that they need a full booklet in Vietnamese for them?
Wow.
And so I was confused. I didn't know what was going on.
This is a very intense introduction to Hong Kong.
And then so I went on the second floor, and then I understood why. It's because the Vietnamese refugees, when they came to Hong Kong, they were under the stewardship of the Hong Kong Correctional Services.
Oh, that's okay.
So they were within basically refugee camps that were closed off with barbed wire. And in a sense, they were considered prisoners. They weren't
guilty
free
until proven innocent.
Well, at least you're not free to roam around the city, right? So you have to stay in those camps. And so there were lots of artifacts that they have kept from that period. And so, for example, there were how people were distilling wine, alcohol, and there was how they were passing time with made-up cards, like decks of cards.
Right.
But there was also a whole section on violence.
Oh, wow.
Right, you'd have like sticks with barbed wire around it, saws, like handmade from scraps of metal.
Wow.
So people were rioting because the conditions were so poor, right? And there was also a helmet that they made out of the top of plastic pail, and then after they put like some sort of filling on top, so makeshift helmets.
Sure.
And so that struck me because I think in what I knew about refugee camps, Vietnamese refugee camps, was yes, the conditions were poor. I didn't hear about people fighting and rioting in order to fight against these conditions.
Wow.
Right. And so this picture was in a sort of room with a gallery of pictures, and it is a picture of how the refugees came to Hong Kong. So that was the boat in which they came.
Right.
So you have these people staring up at the camera. And for me, it just was a wake-up jolt, I think, because I wasn't planning on going through this range of emotions coming
Right.
into Stanley, right? I was just like, I'm gonna chill in Stanley.
Yeah, I know.
And then this whole family history comes back, because my mother's family, they were refugees living in boats like this.
Oh, wow.
And so
Going
it caught up.
Yeah.
It caught up with me.
Do you know what date this photograph was made?
No, I don't
roughly?
remember.
Because it's a black and white shot. It looks, the feeling, like it looks like it's one page of a probably A4 size. It looks like a large. I mean, do you remember if it was like an A4 size?
I don't remember.
Okay.
So this was in 2017
Right.
that I took it.
Right.
And like I said earlier, right, I take pictures to remember the moment
Okay.
or the emotions. So that's why I took it. But in terms of date, there were Vietnamese refugees as of 1975 until the 1990s.
Right.
So it could have been any time.
Right. To
in
me,
between.
it's the look of the image and the clothing, the little telltale whatever that you can pull from the image says 70s, 80s. Like it feels like an older, and probably somebody is photographing it technologically. The cameras were probably older. Yeah, it's an intense photograph because it looks chock-a-block with people, and it's probably really hot. And I mean, being in Hong Kong, must have been just so stifling and so intense.
Yeah.
So,
and I guess for me, this started me on my journey of writing, because they're all staring up at me, right?
Right.
So it's like they're
yeah.
telling me, so now what are you going to do?
Okay.
Right? What are you going to do about this now? And I was reminded, I think, of how privileged I was.
Okay.
And when I came to Hong Kong, so I sort of on sabbatical, I had resigned from my job. I was in a mode of reconstruction.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know where I was going. I felt lost.
Open to experience.
Yeah, open to experience. But I wasn't necessarily in a positive state of mind then.
Oh.
Right? And so this was a reminder that, hey, wake up. You're really privileged in the middle of the day while most people are working to have the time to just go around Stanley and discover things, right?
I feel for you, though. I feel for you. So you're on vacation, and then, like, this is what greets you. Very sobering.
But it's sobering and I think humbling, and it just reminded me that, you know, the freedom is something that people risk their lives for, and that people have to fight in order to maintain or to keep alive. And here you were born into freedom, you know. So what are you going to do with it?
Where were you born?
In Canada, in Toronto.
Okay.
We moved to Montreal when I was a few months old. So.
Oh wow. Okay. And I know I've heard you speak French. You're like full-on proper Quebecois. Good for you. I like it. Back home, yeah. Okay, but then so you come here, and this. Do you feel like, in a way, everything that made you up until that point shaped you to be, once you saw it, it kind of created that moment of epiphany of saying, oh, wait a second. Because like most people would see it and go like, wow, brutal. Wow, okay. But they wouldn't necessarily think the faces are looking at them, looking back at you saying, okay, what are you going to do about it? And yet that was how you internalized that image. In a sense, were you a person seeking? It was like this idea of you becoming a writer and you diving into this, that was all being shaped in the background, so that once you saw that image, that's okay, now this is where you're going.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when I arrived here in 2017, part of my background already is I knew very well what my family stories are. So in our family, we tell a lot about the stories of the past. So it's oral storytelling mostly. I think as a sensitive girl, I just absorbed all of those stories in, right? So those stories stayed with me. And then I was, I think, the first in my family to go to Vietnam.
Go back.
Yeah, to go back.
Wow.
So my mother left in 78, my father left in 75, and they didn't go back.
Right.
So I went back in 2012, and there's like this whole... It was a whole journey of self-discovery, discovery of your roots. So I have all of that as well in the background. And I did start having ideas for a story, for writing.
Okay.
But it was very, I would say, superficial, or just like little notes here and there and bursts of ideas. But I never actually sat down to start writing.
Right.
So at the time, I was working towards a legal career. I became a lawyer, and that was very time-consuming, energy-consuming.
Wow.
And so I didn't have any time and space for creative work.
Right.
And so then it was a great opportunity when my husband landed a job in Hong Kong. We came here, and I was like, okay, so this is probably a good moment to discover, things outside of my legal world.
Wow.
But I wasn't that certain yet about writing. But I think this moment made me say, okay, well, maybe I can jump back into it.
Oh, wow.
And so I wrote an article for the American Women's Association. So it was an association that I joined right when I came to Hong Kong, just to make friends, really.
Yeah.
And they have a magazine, and they were looking for stories. They're always looking for stories. And I thought, okay, this could be an opportunity, because a lot of their stories is about discovering Hong Kong, what to do in Stanley, or what to do in Sha Tin, etc. So I was like, okay, well, you can go to the Correctional Museum, and here's my take on it. And I remember, I wrote it very quickly, and I think all of these thoughts and emotions came out in
flood.
In a flood. There you go. Sent it in, and I remember receiving a note from the director, I think, or president, I don't know how you call it, of the American Women's Association, saying, just read your article, I was really touched, and by the way, if you like writing, this is, we welcome you with open arms for you to write whatever you want in the article. Looking forward to read more from you. And I think an older version of me would have been very flattered by it and jumped on the opportunity to say, oh, yes, I'm going to write now for the American Women's Association, maybe put that into my CV, blah, blah, blah. But I actually never wrote again for the magazine because it's as though this experience opened up the questioning of, no, really, what do you want to do that is meaningful?
Oh, wow.
I was no longer in the mode of looking for validation from the outside world anymore, but it was, okay, really, they're asking you, what are you going to do about it? Right? So I decided not to be sidetracked by writing simply for writing and to make a career out of it, but I wanted to write something that would mean something for me.
Okay. Thank you.
What's going on through your mind?
No. It's more like I know that you're the... Is it artist in residence?
Yes.
Yeah, here. Okay, so here we are in this space. Rachel invites you in to be the writer in residence, artist in residence. And my first degree in Montreal was in creative writing.
Okay.
So I really, for 3-4 years, 5 years, I was a slow student, was really surrounded by what is the stuff of writing, not only professionally, but also, more importantly, like, what is it to write? And so your training at a young age put you through law, which is a certain kind of writing, right? Like
Correct.
you definitely got that training of how to express yourself clearly, methodically, and it shaped how you think. And then you come here, and you're fortunate that in Canada you're not disassociated from your cultural background, right? In America, it's like we're all Americans. Come on, it's great. Canada, it's like multiculturalism. You keep, your Vietnamese is a huge part of who you are and your identity. Okay, and all of that is part of what brings you to Hong Kong. And then you discover this. It's amazing that this one photograph catalyzes that internal transformation. And then you're like, well, I don't know if I want to write as a professional. I'm sorry, I'm talking this through because I'm processing, and hope maybe somebody who's listening will go like, oh, okay, that's kind of interesting. Maybe not. But as a writer, I have my own connections to how you interpreted that and what writing is for you and how it's evolved into this. So I don't know if the next photograph takes us down that road even more.
Yes.
So let's use this.
All right.
So again, I'm going to sigh again and say thank you. This is great. Thank you. So is life really a gift? Really? Can you make every second count? That's the whole point of the podcast. So if you like what you've seen and you're inspired, because that really is my mission, then please give it a like, subscribe, and share.
Shooting it raw?
Yes, shooting it raw.